Right now we're going to welcome in Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, Sully, how are you?
We got to get you to start doing some of those voiceovers. Yeah, check out the South Jersey Sports Report. Come on, it's on Saturday morning. You got the time. Come on.
Exactly. I don't know if I have a voice for that. I might have the attitude for it, but not the voice.
What's happening, man? You got your Diet Cokes in? You ready to roll?
I actually cracked one open right now to get ready for you.
Yes.
So I'm ready to go. Out last night at Holy Spirit, and in about an hour or so, I'll be headed out to Egg Harbor City for the Woodrow Wilson Cedar Creek game. So, a lot going on as, we start to, head towards the end of September here.
Big showdown, man. You think Tim Watson can pull some tricks out of his sleeve and take down Woodrow Wilson? That's a good team, man. They got some great players, some of the best in the state.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson, number 2 in our Press Elite 11. I think quarterback Nick Cargman thrown 16 touchdown passes for the Tigers so far this season. But Cedar Creek has been impressive, and it's just another in what seems to be a series of, a tough games for Cedar Creek every week. They're 2-1. They start the season with an overtime win over Willingboro. Then they play Camden very tough, and then they go beat rival Absegami last week. And I think what kind of bodes well for Cedar Creek a little bit is, how tough they played Camden. You look at what Camden did to Delsea last night. And, I certainly haven't seen, every team in South Jersey, obviously, but I have seen a lot of teams so far this season. Of the teams I've seen, Camden is probably the second most talented team behind the St. Joe Wildcats that I've seen. So you look at how tough Cedar Creek played Camden on that rainy weekend, up 2-0 at halftime and then losing 20-2 in a real physical game, kind of bodes well for Cedar Creek in the rest of the season.
And, Mike, sometimes these Saturday games can be a little bit of an advantage for the teams that are used to playing them. It kind of screws up your week a little bit, your preparation, and then you got to get these kids up at 7:30, 8 in the morning to get ready for a road game on a Saturday. So not always an easy thing to do for teams that are used to just playing every Friday night.
Yeah, on the flip side, it does give you kind of an extra day of preparation. If you had played the Friday night the week before, it kind of gives you an extra day to maybe on the front end to maybe heal up from a game, and on the back end to maybe get that extra day of preparation. So I do know that, I took a glance at the schedule, not to get ahead of ourselves, to next Saturday. You've got some huge games next Saturday. You've got, Haddonfield at 4-0, the defending South Jersey Group 2 champion, going to St. Joe next Saturday. You've got Middle Oakcrest in a Cape Atlantic League battle right there. An Oakcrest team that's won 2 games, equaled their win total from last year. Had a nice win over EHT last night. And you've got, a kind of really interesting game, not to jump ahead on the Cedar Creek angle, but Cedar Creek hosts Pleasantville next Saturday in a game that, kind of will be a Group 2 playoff game between those two teams. That'll be a huge game. So, there's always one Saturday, think about Saturday, there aren't many games, but there's usually, a couple of really, really good ones.
Yeah, Mike, me and Nick were talking early in the show about how interesting that Independence division has gotten, not only because Mainland's winning and Oakcrest doing what it needs to get done, but also Ocean City, pretty tough time last night with Absegami, only won 9-0. So those teams are all kind of jumbled together, and we're going to find out pretty much everything we need to know about the division in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, Mainland gets the win. They bounce back from the Cherry Hill West loss. They beat Bridgeton last night. So now they're 3-1. As you said, Ocean City, they win the game. They do what they have to do against Absegami. They're 3-0. Give Absegami a lot of credit for, starting off the season with kind of 2 rough losses to Mainland and Cedar Creek. But even in the Mainland loss in their season opener, some things went wrong for Absegami, some turnovers that Mainland was able to convert in the game, even though I think it was 27-28-0. It was much closer than the score indicated. It was scoreless in the second half. So I'm not, entirely surprised. Some people might look at it and be a little bit surprised by the Ocean City Absegami score. I'm really not. Absegami, I think, is a better football team than their record indicates. And now you got Ocean City at 3-0 and really playing well. And they'll have a huge game next Friday night when they host St. Augustine down in Ocean City. St. Augustine at 2-2. kind of obviously much better than their 2-2 record, and they sort of stabilized the ship last night with a 27-3 win over Shawnee. So you have Ocean City hosting St. Augustine next Friday night, and what I would say is probably the biggest regular season game Ocean City has played in, quite a long time.
Mike, talk about the game you were at last night, Holy Spirit and Hammonton. It seemed like that game was going to be, a lot closer than what the score indicated last night. But Hammonton did a good job containing one of the best running backs in South Jersey, in Elijah Gray. And it was the Ryan Yost show last night. So talk about that a little bit and how Holy Spirit now can kind of go both ways on offense and not just feed the ball to Gray every week.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed by Ryan Yost. It was the first time I've seen him play this season, and he really throws a nice ball, really accurate deep ball thrower, and is really impressive there at quarterback. He's got some very good wide receivers. And obviously, you talk about a game, and sometimes it's funny how one play or one thing can sort of turn a game. And, the first possession of the game, Holy Spirit gets that quirky, bizarre touchdown where, the ball is snapped, it hits Yost in the chest, drops at his feet, and all 22 guys on the football field basically stopped. I mean, the game came to a stop, and no whistle blows. All of a sudden, Yost, as he told me after the game in a story I wrote, in the paper today and on PressOfAC.com right now, all of a sudden he seemed to say, I can pick this ball up. He picks the ball up, and there's Alvaro Laura standing 25 yards downfield with nobody around him. He lobs the ball to him. Laura catches it, runs for a touchdown, and Spirit's up 6-0 and on their way. And you think about the converse, what might have happened. I mean, Hammonton could have jumped on that football. A Hammonton player could have scooped it up and ran for a touchdown, and then Hammonton's up 6-0. So the game really did turn on that one play. Two takeaways from last night's game that I'll look at, or three takeaways. One, I was impressed by Yost's ability to throw the football. Elijah Gray ran it in the second half when Holy Spirit was trying to control the clock, ended up with 100 yards. Holy Spirit's a very good young football team. They've got a lot of talented young players. Freshman linebacker Michael Francisco, he's one of the many young players that Spirit has. He really impressed me last night. And Hammonton, although they're 1-3, there's a lot to feel positive about there. The sophomore running back Jaden Abrams, who had such a big game against Shawnee 2 weeks ago, had 100 yards last night. He impressed me. You can see that he's the real deal. So he's something to build on for Hammonton going forward.
And kind of a similar situation last year with Hammonton. They started out with kind of a rough September and were able to turn things around. And before you know it, they were making a run through the state playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at Hammonton's schedule, and it was kind of front-loaded. They played Long Branch, who is a Shore Conference power, defending Central Jersey champion. Then they played Timber Creek. We all know what they're about. Then they played Shawnee, and then they played Holy Spirit. Now their schedule lightens up a little bit. I think they've got Absegami coming up. They've got King Eastern, those teams like that, Washington Township. So we'll see what happens. Obviously those are very good teams. And, Hammonton will have to be at their best to beat them, but they're not defending sectional champions, which are a lot of the teams that Hammonton was playing in the beginning of the season.
Talk with Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. And, Mike, anything surprise you so far in the first couple of weeks of the season?
Nothing really kind of standing out. I think, you look at Ocean City able to get off to that 3-0 start, but other than that, I think from the you look at the traditional Cape Atlantic League teams, it's kind of unfolded as we thought it would be. With St. Joe kind of at the top, and Pleasantville obviously with a win last night, getting the 3-1. I think what you've seen so far is you've seen teams put themselves in position to kind of make a run at the playoffs. Pleasantville 3-1. Ocean City 3-0, Mainland 3-1. So you see teams doing what they have to do early in the season to kind of put themselves in position to make a run or qualify for the playoffs.
Mike, just real quick on St. Joe's as well. I know they played Atlantic City last night, and Atlantic City is in a rebuilding phase at the moment, but it seems like St. Joe's is just too good for this area, and they warrant at least a top 5, maybe even top 10, top 5 ranking throughout the entire state. Is St. Joe's that good of a football team? And could you see this team contending with, the powers like St. Peter's or Don Bosco or Bergen Catholic?
Well, I'd like to see them play one of those teams this year. I think what sets St. Joe apart, And obviously, they're not going to get that chance. St. Joe's in state non-public too. Those teams are state non-public 4, and obviously St. Joe has a very challenging schedule, the rest of the way. We mentioned they're playing Hammonton next Saturday. They've got a game coming up against Holy Spirit. They've got, Timber Creek coming up. They'll play Vineland. They'll play West Deptford, another traditional power. So they've got a tough schedule the rest of the way. I think what separates St. Joe, and obviously it's a great program, and they've had great teams throughout the years, and I think what kind of puts this team in discussion with maybe some of, can put them in a conversation with one of the greatest teams in St. Joe history is, one, Jada Byers and his ability to make big plays. And, we've talked about that and written about that, seemingly every day since the season started. I think the other thing that puts them in the discussion is obviously the play of the linemen. I mean, the Wisdom Quashie, Sean Morris, Tucker Monaco, Bobby Hyman, Brad Lomax. I mean, usually a high school football team, at least in South Jersey, will have one of those linemen on a team, and they would feel blessed to have one of those guys. Well, this year St. Joe has 5 of those guys, and that line, offensive, defensive side of the ball, really, and combine that with Jada Byers and the usual St. Joe players and the coaching of Paul Sacco and his staff, really kind of sets them apart this season.
Mike, when are we going to start seeing you out there on the soccer pitch?
There's only so many days in the week, Sully, and
come on, we got to start talking some real
of getting people out to soccer games on a regular basis.
We got to start talking some real football here soon.
Although I usually do make an appearance, when you'll see me out there is playoffs. I usually do make appearance. I'm usually good for a non-public final up in Homedale. They usually are, or a final up at Kane University. I usually make my soccer debut late in the season.
Well, maybe this year the Cape Atlantic League tournament.
Yeah, possibly. You never know.
First time ever for that.
You never know where I might show up. So, keep an eye out.
I'm sure I'll see you at one of these fields pretty soon.
Exactly.
Thanks, as always, Mike. We appreciate it, man. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, Sully. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Talk to you next week.
You got it. Thanks, bud.
Bye-bye.